Hey, good morning, everybody. Today is July 12th, 2020, and you are live with Bob Phibbs, the Retail Doc. So thanks for joining in. Hey, Lewis, thanks for joining in. You were the first one, so you get the special kudos. Yay, thank you very much. I don't have my spray today, but those of you who are joining in, please type in where you're joining in from around the world. I know we have people from every continent that watch this live, as well as later on, obviously. If you are joining us later on, you can still type in where you're joining me from. I thought you'd have a laugh this morning. I was thinking of what I was going to wear, and I found this T-shirt, which I haven't seen in a long time. What if the hokey pokey really is what it's all about? When I would do sales training in the time BC, before COVID, I would threaten the group towards the end of the day. It'd be like, okay, if you don't pay attention, we're all going to do the hokey pokey. And as much as they would say like, oh, I don't want to do it, everybody loved doing the whole hokey pokey and turning around and all that. So if you do ever do live events or team building or anything, of course, socially distance. Just understand that everybody wants to be a kid, and the hokey pokey is one of the most fun ways that you can do that. So I have people on, we're doing this live today from both Facebook and LinkedIn. LinkedIn looks like we are much more international. Thanks, all you international folks from LinkedIn. Glad you're here today, and as well as folks here on Facebook. So yeah, so if you didn't get the joke, what if the hokey pokey is really all it's about? Okay, so I'm not going to worry if you can see me clearly now. So I wanted to share a story with you because I think it's important. You know, as much as the news is wanting to paint us, it's terrible, terrible, terrible. In fact, I was reading the story this morning, and they were connecting all these dots, how the economy is like doing terrible. And it was like, yeah, see, Brooks Brothers is going bankrupt, and J.C. Penney and Bed Bath & Beyond is closing 200 stores. And as the retail expert, I'm like, that's great. I mean, let's face it, Brooks Brothers, when's the last time, guys, you wore a suit or a tie to the office? And much less you had a closet full of them. I'm going to say probably not many. So the chance that they can right-size their business, fine. J.C. Penney, same thing. They talk about not all of our locations are unprofitable. In fact, there's about 200 or 300 that aren't. We're going to be cutting them out so we can compete better. It's like, awesome. Bed Bath & Beyond, same thing. So just, you know, it's easy for us to think that, okay, everything is terrible. But in reality, you know, if you're in the boat business, the spa business, mobile electronics, sewing, garden center, anything to do with the home or escaping along that line, you are probably doing really well. In fact, you're probably telling me, in fact, some of your questions today are talking about what do we do with lack of inventory. And I wanted to share this story for those of you who are telling me how busy you are. I can't train. I don't know, you know, we're just trying to get them out the door. There's lines, et cetera, et cetera. Quick story. So I used to work in cowboy clothes several decades ago, and I managed the South Coast Plaza location of a Western retailer. And this one young guy had Kevin. He waited on this couple one night, and the guy came in wanting a pair of like $100 boots. He's like, oh, we have some fundraiser we're going to be going to at the end of the month. I just want something cheap. So he ends up doing a great job selling the guy, instead of a pair of $100 boots, got a pair of $300 or $400 boots, and got his wife into a pair. And at the very end, they said, Kevin, we like you so much. You know, we're the chair of the fundraiser, and we're going to make sure everybody comes back to you. So do you have a card? So for the next several weeks, we would go to greet people, and then they'd say like, oh, is Kevin in today? And it'd be like, oh, yeah, Kevin's off. Oh, well, I'll be back when Kevin's here. And so he had this steady stream of people coming in to be able to work with him based on that couple. So good for him. And we kept telling him, Kevin, this isn't going to last. You better get their names and addresses. You better put it in the well, we didn't have a CRM at that point. It was handwritten, but you want to be able to hold on to these people, and you really need to upsell them, and you need to be thinking about other things. And he's like, no, I'm so busy, I won't need it. Okay, so Saturday, you know, the end of the month, like the 26th comes, and we pay bonuses the beginning of the next week. And Kevin is standing around with nothing to do the week, and we're doing our usual business. And he's like, God, it's so dead. What's happened? And I swear to you, 2 or 3 of the guys start singing, the party's over, it's time to call it a day. And it was funny, and yet it wasn't, because he had all that business, he was slammed, and he could have really dug in and said, I've got to do a better job to hold on to these people instead of I just got to get them out the door. And when that trend stopped, he actually had nobody coming in to ask for him, and he had to kind of get in the queue with the rest of our salespeople. And my message to you is that if that's happening to you, those are missed opportunities. When you tell me we're sold out of our entry-level products, when you tell me I don't have time to train, when you tell me we're so busy trying to find product, I don't have time to reward and encourage my crew, we're just trying to get through the day, you sound like Kevin. So I made a video earlier. If you go to Van Life, it's just down there, was on LinkedIn a few days ago. But ultimately, we are in a new area. I don't think that anybody thinks that it's not. And I think you have to do everything you can to look at mining the data from people who have bought from you. And if you're not doing that yet, future self would love for you to do that, because in 6 months, they're going to say, oh, thanks so much for doing that hard work of entering that in your CRM and give me something to follow up with. So consider that. And I know a lot of you are anxious, and I want to thank you for your comments this week. I put them together in a post, which I'm going to be putting out tonight, on how do you deal with anxiety, and taking a lot of your tips, adding my own. So I hope you'll look for that in the newsletter tonight. And we are preparing for the Comeback Challenge in August. This is going to be a whole program we're going to do around Sales RX. We'll have access to me. We'll have short webinars each week, but it's only going to be for people that are in that package, and you won't see that for another 3 or 4 weeks. But I'm excited about it because I'm looking to what value we can give to you, and every week you decide to give me enough value to spend some time with me. So I wanted to also say thanks very much for joining me today. And finally, I just got this from Core Insight that retailers are facing a wave of pent-up returns post-lockdown, which is going to be a challenging hurdle. They surveyed U.S. shoppers and found out that most of them have not returned items because they'd rather go to a store and return them. And it says 3 in 10 of those who had products in return stated they plan to return them to the store when the stores reopen. So again, the idea that online is everything wonderful and the grass is greener, it is a punishing place to play. And if you're shipping things, that free shipping both ways is tough, and especially on expensive items, and especially if it's fashion items, which come back and several weeks later, and all of that. So just understand that brick and mortar is generally who I work with, but we now call it more of an omni-channel or a one channel, that I should be able to buy it wherever I am. If I'm in a subway and I pick up an app, or on a website, or on Facebook or Instagram, or gosh forbid, I walk in your store, still more sales are still going to be made in store than online. But you need to have all of those ways in case, God forbid, you get shut down, which somebody is sharing their story with today. So I want to thank all of you for joining in. I'm going to take a quick look at our guest list because, my goodness, there's only hundreds of you. Good morning, Katie. I'm glad you're joining us. Good morning, Cheryl. Thanks. Yeah, muggy Salem, Connecticut. I know. I'm in New York. It's like I'm ready for the humidity to go away. I didn't move to Houston. Thank you very much. Luis from Costa Rica. Faiza from Dubai. Very nice. Carol from St. Louis. Glad you're here. We have Dorothy from Accra, Ghana. Awesome. Akabi from New York City. My goodness, so many of you, and a lot of you are my regulars, and yet you've got so many new people. David, gaming is huge right now, absolutely, and it has to modify, right? So how do you end up, instead of maybe having 100 gamers at your store on a Friday night, how do you navigate it? But more importantly, how do you use that interest to grow your sales? That's the key for all of it. Mohammed, your session is always productive. Thanks for sharing your tips and info. Well, of course. Hey, Nicole, you're here. Thanks very much. Glad you're there. And Billy, hey, glad you're here this morning as well. Well, I know you're not tuning in to hear me say hello to people you don't know. Sarah from Ireland, thanks so much. Let's get to a few of your questions here and see what you think. And by the way, if I am live, you can ask a question and at the end. So wait, don't do it in the middle because I won't be able to see it from all your comments jumping in. But I will answer that as best I can. And by the way, I'm not here to be your best friend. I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm here to give you the hard reality of what you should be doing and the things that your friends won't tell you, probably. Fair enough. All right. There he is, Robert. So do you think trade shows are a thing of the past? Seems many canceled and going virtual. Do you think regular contact with sales reps is over? But B2B going to advance more quickly. Now, Robert, you ask a lot of questions, as Roseanne Ratana Data used to say. First off, are trade shows a thing of the past? No. It'd be like saying our brick and mortar retailers are a thing of the past, our hotels a thing of the past, our restaurants a thing of the past. We are human beings. We want to go out. We want to see. We want to meet. We are open to new ideas. So trade shows are not. Right now, yeah, we're on pause. It sucks. My calendar is wide open and I'm pivoting to virtual, and I'm having people do all kinds of ways to say, well, can you do this? All sorts of new ways that I never had to think of, which is great. But there's limits to what virtual can do. We all understand that, right? So especially when it's coming to a trade show. Yes, you could see me do a keynote on Zoom, but it's not going to be the same experience as when there is 1,000 of you in the room and you're all laughing and you're getting it and you're writing things down, and that collective energy that has to happen when we come together, that isn't released. So there you are, and something pops up, an email or a text or something, and you're distracted. And so the message kind of goes through more of a filter to get to you. So don't get me wrong, those of you who've hired me to do keynotes virtually, I'm there. But I think all of them realize that we want to get back to that, because the serendipitous nature, that casualness of meeting somebody in the hallway that's just going through just like what you're doing, or you meet someone you've never met, or like me, a lot of times I get brought into various businesses who have never heard of me before, because that's the whole point, that when you work with 40 to 50 of the best brands in the world, you have something to say about what it takes to compete. And I think the more that we realize that we are going to find that, and there may be hybrid versions of it, but also for trade shows, a lot of times they can go through and do one pitch really well to you virtually, and maybe that access is going to come at the show or after. It's going to be different ways to book the appointments, or you're going to book your appointments virtually, because then the guy could actually be in the back away from everybody at the booth while someone's glad handing people, and he could be one-on-one with you somewhere else. But make no mistake, the reason why trade shows can continue is because people pay to have a booth there. So if people don't pay to have a booth there because they don't think retailers are going to go, then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I encourage all of you to be looking forward to, when the mart's open, to finding those shows that are doing it. I know I was thrilled to read that NAM, the National Association of Music Merchants, is going to have their big convention in January in Anaheim, and there's several others that are restarting in February and March. Of course, with social distancing, it'll be different, but make no mistake, in person is still what humans like. So there, I hope that answers. And yes, so for right now, they are going virtual. I agree. And frankly, sales reps over Zoom is a great thing for right now. But I think you will look forward to having that discussion with your sales rep, however you can do it, that brings them together, right? So, Nicole, I need my own radio show. Thank you. If it pays, I'm there. So there you go. Top Fan Margot says, our suppliers are starting to run out of some core products and there's a delay for restocking. How do I talk to my clients about custom order expectations as lead times are getting longer and longer? So Margot, this is a great question. I can tell you the number one thing I would tell all of you who are running out of stock: sell what you have, sell what you have, sell what you have. BC, before COVID, you could go through, oh, we like this, but can we get it with a little purple trim instead of the standard blue? Oh, yes. And so you go and tell people, oh, we can do all of these fun things, except that you're setting yourself up for disaster. Because custom, in a time when manufacturers are also, just like you, dealing with fewer people that are coming to work, fewer parts in their distribution network, supply chains are being stressed. They too would rather make 100 things and get them out to people, or have them put in a container and come across the ocean, than to have one that has to have so much things. So if that's what you want to do, Mario, I would certainly say double your lead time. So if they tell you it's going to be 6, I would tell people it's 12, and I would try not to sell it. I would do everything in my power not to sell that custom item right now. I know that's not what you probably have people say, but that's it. And if you do have to put in the order, then make sure that you've told them on the order, this probably will take 3 to 4 months to get. and then put something in your phone that says, I'm going to call them every 3 weeks and give them an update. You want to do everything you can not to sell that item. Oh, and by the way, make sure you mark it up more than anything else, because it's going to be more headaches, it's more tracking, etc. I hope that helps. And how many of you are converting lookers to buyers right now? We are hearing about revenge buying. We're hearing about people who are coming in and saying the sky's the limit. They're not as price determined. But if you don't have a sales process, you're going to be in a world of hurt, which is why I have a program for that. It's called SalesRx. You can go to salesrx.com. You can sign up for $195 a month for up to 5 users, $390 for 10, and it goes up from there. But I teach you exactly how to engage a stranger, discover the shopper, build the rapport, and compare and contrast and actually sell your merchandise, instead of just having people come in. Do you have a cheap this or cheap that? And you fulfill it while your premium merchandise sits. And the thing is, the premium merchandise has the margin, the low entry level doesn't. And so again, think like Kevin, how much are you losing because all you're really doing is clerking? Chuck says, we're going to go from 100% online the last 5 years to a brick and mortar store here soon. How do I navigate adding this option for people but not losing the online business that caused our growth? I still think online will be 90% with just 10% storefront, but we need the warehouse space, and I figured a small showroom would be nice. If you're really going to open a store, then don't skimp on it. But my guess is this is really more like a warehouse, probably with a call desk. And if that's it, then that's very different. But online is a different customer generally. I've searched it, I found it, I want it. And brick and mortar is about discovery. I walk in, I don't know what you offer. And so that curiosity leads me to come in. So if you're going to go in, go big and make it a real store, or just say you're just a warehouse call desk and deal with it. But don't take sort of, I've seen people do that where they just, knock out part of a warehouse, hang a light, put a counter and a few old racks they got from a leftover supplier, and they think that's a store, and it's a horrible experience. And then they say, oh, it's not working. It's like, well, it's not a mystery. People go where it's bright and organized and friendly. So I hope that helps. All right. Lisa says, it's very hard to plan. By the way, if you are just joining me or you're not familiar with the drill, if you're on LinkedIn, would you give me the little applause down there? Because the algorithm is looking for it. And if you're on Facebook, give me some thumbs up, give me some hearts, give me some love, because that's the only way Facebook knows to do anything with me. So there you go. Right. So Lisa, very hard to plan how much inventory to order. Is business that was busy during the shutdown. We ended up out of stock and facing significant back orders on many items like basic fabrics and entry-level sewing machines. There you go. I normally place a large order now to carry me through the fall. The larger order gives me better pricing and it gives me backup. I would love a crystal ball to predict what the upcoming months are going to look like. Lack of confidence that things will continue. So the key to all of that, Lisa, is to know your numbers and your turn. So not all of it's selling, not all of it is turning as well. You need to know your numbers, and you need to have a sales process. Again, all those categories, RVs, boats, bike centers, garden centers are rocking it. Sewing stores can be rocking it too. But if you are only selling the entry level, you might as well, I would say, what about selling your used machines, featuring them differently? But without a sales process, you are much more susceptible to having your margins really hurt. So at some point, Lisa, you have to decide, are you going to believe the news and are you going to feel like it's all going to fall down? We all are running into that right now, because as soon as we think we're going up, then we hear all the cases are going up and people are shutting their wallets and people are fearful, and no one's going to tell us it's over and it's all good news. It's just not going to happen. Wall Street is out in la la land, just keeps going up, and we're all like, really? So I would say you're probably going to be in business. You probably have been doing well, but be aware that maybe you've been riding a trend, and so maybe you're not going to make as big an order. But to your point, the person that gets the sale is the one that has the inventory. So if you've skimped too much, like an awful lot of stores we're seeing right now have tried to move their merchandise out of the way, but it looks like the whole store is kind of half empty. And that's really not a good place to shop. So I know it's not easy, and I hope those give you some ideas there. It's not necessarily the easiest way to do it. Katie says, everything takes twice as much time and effort as it did BC before COVID. That's right. Any time management tips or new ideas? The very simple thing, Katie, I have noticed is it won't get done unless I move to change it, right? Unless I put enough value on whatever that thing is. I need to, update my Shopify online port. I need to check on my supply line. I need to go through and train my employees 15. Unless you put enough leverage on yourself, then you're going to tell me, oh, I didn't have time. I didn't have time to train. I don't have time to write to customers. I don't have time to do a newsletter. We're just so busy. Well, then you have to look in the mirror and say, well, then you're not really working on your business. You're just being an employee, and that's not really good. Leverage is seeing what happens if you don't take initiative, right? So if you don't write those orders, you're going to have an empty store and people are going to walk in and they're not going to find anything. And now you become a self-fulfilling prophecy of going out of business. Or you see that if I don't train my employees, that when I'm off the floor, my employees are just going to stand back and expect people to walk up to them and buy something, and they're not. And that's going to be it. So I just say, start off with something easy. Take a timer. Put it on your desk, set it to 15 minutes, a half hour, doesn't matter. When it dings, you have to get up and go do something. Now, that's one way, just monitoring your time at the computer, because all of us can get lost in that circle of Facebook and everything else, right? It just gives you a chance, get the hell up. If you want to be more advanced, then put it in your planner and say, for 15 minutes, I'm going to do this, and actually have it come up as a calendar invite on your phone so that you see it, you block it out, and then you hold to it. But you're only going to do that if you've got enough leverage to change. In fact, with all the uncertainty going on around, I'm taking the Unleash the Power Within with Tony Robbins. Starts on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and half of Saturday. It goes 11 a.m. till probably 9 or 2 a.m., who knows. But I know that I have to get out of my comfort zone, and I've got to reshift my energies if I'm going to help anybody. And that's a huge commitment, right? And I even thought about it like, well, do I really have to watch all of it? It's like, if I'm in, I'm going to be in. So I would hope that you would think of the same thing, that if you're going to do it, then the time management tip is commit to it, see leverage. What's going to happen if I don't do this? Schedule it or get a timer. I hope that helps. And my last one here, and then I'll look through your questions if you got questions here. Billy, you're only as healthy as your employees' immediate family and the places where they work. Exactly. COVID is coming to all of our doorsteps. Be prepared with a plan of action. We're in limbo right now, awaiting tests. Had to send our employees home because one employee's fiance tested positive. It's like we're closed all over again. I was a big herd immunity guy prior to last weekend. Let the chips fall where they may, but not anymore. Required masks can save a lot of people when you're not aware somebody may have contracted and don't find out for 3 days. Okay, so good. My business has been good in July, and that's the biggest challenge as I am now short-handed. So I think that kind of brings us back, Billy, to the idea that you still have to hire people. We still have people who have been laid off and they're making more money on unemployment. That's going to end in the next few weeks, and they're going to want to come back. But you still have to hire people. I don't know if you saw the news. Macy's talked about all the people they were letting go, and also said, and there's going to be fewer people in the stores. And it's like, really? How much fewer could I find in a Macy's? Because already it's small. And I think the problem is you start managing down to what your sales can do. And, for you, I would say consider setting appointments outside of usual business hours and doing virtual selling using FaceTime or Salesforce or something like that. Maybe have your employees who are quarantined to be able to sell online doing virtual closets. The whole point is, Billy, find a way, because you have people who are interested. Just make sure that you don't use it as an excuse. Oh, I'm too busy to train. I'm too busy to hire. That's for somebody else. I can tell you that stories are popping up all over the world of people who have said, I have to find a way to get to my customers, and now I had to learn Facebook, or now I had to figure out how do I pay by text, and all of these other ways gives you something to not be so anxious about. And again, remember, tonight on the newsletter, I'm going to have a whole post, 30 things you can do on how to deal with anxiety in retail. And I hope you'll enjoy that post. So I'm going to take a quick look down here for your questions. There are so many of you. Again, if you just give me some thumbs up, give me some love, give me some applause if you're on wherever you are. LinkedIn. Knew I had that. Hey, Bernadette, glad you're here from Bahrain. And I have an awful lot of you here. Aaron, glad you're here this morning. That's great. Thanks so much. We've got all that. I see no questions here. And hi from Miami. Miami's having a tough time. That's it. Yeah, Nicole, trade shows are so valuable to retailers. I couldn't agree with you more. Exactly. Joanne, I haven't canceled going to Atlanta trade show in January yet. Have till October to decide. Again, what's the option? You know, I think we're going to get Zoom fatigue if we don't already have it. There's only so much that you can take of, you know, I do them too. I see people on Zoom and I'll be doing some meeting with somebody and then I'll see like 2 or 3 of them just get up and leave and, you know, pet the dog or come back with a drink. And I'm just like, is this really focused? Are you really here with me? Or are you sort of here with me? And I appreciate you being here this morning as well. But let's be honest, it's very easy to leave this kind of a position. And even though my online retail sales training program is online, SalesRx, it is designed to be building the foundation of learning. It's the plumbing, it's the cement that lets you build the house. So it's the whole point of it is you take the learning and you distill it, you practice it, then you role play it. They can role play it either with you on Zoom, socially distanced in your store, wherever. But the learning happens really on the floor in your store so that they can start putting A plus B plus C equals, wow, that's the whole alphabet. I can really do this. Because that's what Kevin did at South Coast Plaza with that one customer who ended up making his month and actually made me manager of the month that month. So there you go. Daniel says, as horrible as this COVID situation is, I feel like on it, I just lost you. Have been learning great ways to adapt, keeping retail fresh and new. I would totally agree with that, Daniel. I think you're right there. Nicole, brick and mortar is about discovering community. It helps bring communities to life, adding to the charming character of where they call home. Exactly. Joanna, have SalesRx been updated for online selling? I don't know what that exactly means. Online selling right now for most people is, you know, you have a website or something like that. We are introducing in September a whole remote selling course, which is how you go through and do that, but it is dependent on you actually knowing the rest of SalesRx. So if you're even thinking about it, that would be the time to up and look at it. Candace, people are actually buying now for Christmas as they're concerned about the supply chain. Yeah, that's exactly it. And Chris, love the shirt. That's good. Billy, glad you joined me for that, and that's great for joining me as well. So, what did I talk about here today? What's one thing that you're going to take from my conversation with you today? Huh? Type something in. What's one thing that you're going to take from it? What's one thing, just wherever you are in the world, whichever platform you're on, what's one thing you took from today that you're going to do better with this week? If you don't write it, you don't believe it. So write something in comments right now. Otherwise, it really is all about the hokey pokey, and we're all just sitting here trying to wait for somebody to give us a game, you know? So what's one thing you're willing to do? Type it in comments. What's one thing? Oh, Susan, don't be an employee. I love that idea. Exactly. I'm not here to, you know, am I on the schedule? No, I'm not. That's great. Angela, trade shows aren't dead. That's exactly right. They are not dead. And the smart ones will live it and ultimately come out of this stronger because they'll have figured out, oh, it's not about having some guy who tells some story that's not related to me. It's really about actionable things I can learn from a guy like, just saying. Caroline, make time to plan. Exactly. Katie, mining that data from the current customers. Exactly. Beth, scheduling that time. And I use Google Calendar, but do something that gets over to your best friend, because when it comes up, we tend to go through and listen to her or him, however you look at your machine like that. Yeah, set the timer, Erica. Exactly. Even just doing that for 10 minutes or an hour, it doesn't matter. But when it dings, you're like, I got to get up. Really important. Cindy, leverage. Exactly. If you don't see enough downside of you going down the way you're going, it's not going to change. Amy, don't skimp on inventory, because ultimately you're going to start looking like you're out of business. And then what happens? You become it. Nicole, get off your butt and work for real. The things you may not want to do get done. Exactly. The things you don't want to do have to get done. I love that. And Lewis, sell what you have. Exactly. If you hear nothing else from me, this is not the time for, oh, and we could customize everything. Great. If you want to wait 6 months. Oh, you're still willing to give me money down? Okay. And it's going to be an extra 30% higher. You're still willing to do it. Great. Now it's going to kick you in that every update is every 2 or 3 weeks to let them know you're like, hey, we haven't heard back. I'm just letting you know. I'm just letting you know. Carol, sales training now, SalesRx. That's what makes the difference. I can tell you 84% of our users report double-digit increases within 6 months. What else are you going to hang on? Because you can't hang on price and promotion. You can't hang on events right now. But what you can do is to say, I need to affect every single person that walks in and give them a better experience than the guy down the way or the click up the cloud. Well, I like that, the click up the cloud. Maybe I'll do that. I like that. Robin, I'm going to keep giving the best service possible with follow-up. Yeah, follow-up is the key on all that. Hey, Brian, glad you're here this morning. That's nice. I'm going to actually show you. Labor must be protected to ensure the art of the customer service is met. Boy, that's a great place for us to finish with comments there, Brian. But that whole idea that you can keep cutting past the fat and to the bone, and now most are in the arteries, and thinking that a store that takes 8 people to run can run on 1. And I'm telling you, you're just going to piss people off that work for you. Your customers are going to notice and say, I think they're going out of business. And you thought that they wouldn't notice. I can guarantee you they will, because every employee can sell more than any display, any little video you do on your store to people that come in. If you understand the goal is to build the basket and to say how high is up, I think we're in for a new renaissance of retail, because we are on the cusp of a new hedonism. We're seeing it in RVs, we're seeing it in spas, we're seeing it in barbecues, we're seeing it in garden centers. People are not being price promotion. They're saying it could all end tomorrow. I want to surround myself with the toys or the experiences that I can. And with that in mind, I want to make sure that you know that I appreciate you being here today. Again, it always helps for you to type in and let me know what you got out of it, because otherwise you're not going to take action. And part of leverage is saying, this is important enough that I'm going to change. If you don't change, who's going to do it? With that, I'm Bob Phibbs, the Retail Doc. Remember, in hope, I am fearless. And I hope I see you again next week when I return at 9 a.m. Eastern Time to take your questions. Again, in hope, I'm fearless.